Howdy, Fu here, and welcome back to Knowledge is Overpowered and our third part, the Protoss Guide to every hero in the game. Starting off, we have Zealot. Zealot is a very powerful tanky melee unit that is insane DPS, 16.7. That is just higher than Baneling on DPS. Uh, it's very good late game. Early game, I'd say it's pretty weak, but it's definitely not one of the weakest heroes early laning. Uh, Most of the time, you'd want to go charge speed, but under certain circumstances, for example, against a certain Terran hero where you can't charge without going into the bunkers, or on desert, you will want to go stone form instead. At level 7, always, just like Marine, get your farming ability and use it every single time you can, and always be trying to take farm spots, even if they're in the enemy's critters and they'll likely get taken out. After that, I always get one level of stone form if I don't have so already, just in case, before getting the damage upgrades. The only weakness for Zealot, I'd say, is its melee and its early game, and it's not very good if it doesn't have farm.
Yeah. Alright, so moving on, we have the Stalker. The Stalker is perhaps the most mobile hero in the game. Now, it's pretty good early game. It's ranged. It's not that long range, but it has the ability to upgrade to range 7, which is pretty nice. And it's got a decent amount of speed. So, early game, it's very good at poking people off your lane. Don't get Shadow Wave, just go Blink range. Shadow Wave I do use in certain situations, but only against Zerg and only against certain heroes. In general, it's just best to remember not to buy it until later. So with Stalker, your whole focus early game is just to annoy other heroes, push them off your lane, and just try to stay in as much as possible, get experience. And you should have no trouble doing that because you can avoid a lot of things with Blink. Once you get to about level 10 through 14, you want to sell everything and buy energy upgrades and Nova, and then just go Nova double lanes. And this is very good on Stalker because pretty much nothing can stop you from doing it, because you have Blink, you have Wormhole, leave one observer near their double lane, jump into it, and just wipe everything. So, strengths, it is ridiculously mobile. You can wormhole on top of enemy heroes. You can just leave your lane, come back, finish a fight, and just have all your health regened. It does have a pretty good turn of range, and it's just overall a very nice hero. Now, the weakness is it doesn't do a whole lot of damage with its auto attack, so you're going to have to be careful with how you engage. And it doesn't have a whole lot of great combat abilities, so you have to rely on other heroes to do stunning for you. But otherwise, good hero.
Next, we have High Templar, arguably and admittedly one of the worst heroes in the game, but it's still very fun. Early on, against Terran and Zerg, Storm is very good for clearing creep, but against Protoss, it's not even really worth using against Protoss. I would go for feedback and energy. Why energy? The Khydirian Amulet upgrade? Well, because we're going to use one of my favorite items in the game, like Broodlings. First 400 minerals for High Templar, I would suggest warping out, first 425, getting your Warp Gate and Soul Channel and a buyback. Always have a buyback, because Soul Channel is really good for High Templar. It helps you survive, it helps you relentlessly poke the enemy hero. I would do this with almost any Protoss spellcaster. Once you get Temporal Rift, it is very good for ganking using your High Templar Super Mega Ultra Gosu combo of Temporal Rift, Feedback, Storm, Soul Channel, Phase Shift before all of that if you have it. During certain stages of the game, it will kill heroes pretty well if they're especially spellcasters. Like if I see it a fire, I'm like candy, because I can go kill it if I don't get stunned.
Yeah, squishy heroes.
Weakness for High Templar is it's really easy to kill. Pro tip: Stasis and Phase Shift is instantly just a getaway spells, so always have that.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't use Nova because that's kind of a death sentence.
Yeah, it's kind of risky. Next, Fu will also be covering Probe.
Actually, you were gonna cover Probe. I have Archon and Immortal, don't I? Or no, Phoenix and Immortal.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, let me just.
We can both do Probe. It's okay. We can
Okay.
sharing is caring.
Sharing is
With Probe,
God,
there
no
are basically two different things you can do. The first thing you can do is critter with cannons. What I like to do is I like to go cannons and build like a cannon each critter to help and slowly build it up. Get a level of pylon and set up my farms right before I leave. Leave at about level 7 or on river 15-minute mark or so. But when you're laning, I'll let string cover battle probe.
Yeah, when you're laning, probe is actually really good, even against toss. Now, against as battle probe, you're gonna go repulsion beam, chrono boost first, and so repulsion beam is really really good. Against Sir, you can start one-shotting creep waves pretty much right away. Against Terran, you have to wait until level 2 repulsion beam, but in both cases, you're going to want to focus on wiping creep waves first, hero second. Against Toss, you want to always be poking the enemy hero with it because you're not doing a whole lot of damage to the Zealots. I would say this is very similar to High Templar. First 400 minerals, go back, get Warp Gate, Soul Channel, and then you can spam it even better because of your Chrono Boost ability. So you can...
And your 3 speed,
yeah,
plus Chrono Boost for more speed, so there's no getting away from the 13 range that Soul Channel has once it's been activated.
Lol HTU mad?
Fun fact for Probe is because of Chrono Boost, all the story-bought skills become much more effective because they have a 15% shorter cooldown. That means Stasis is a lot faster. That means Energy Nova is going to be a lot faster. Soul Channel, Plasma Surge, all those are a lot
Citrus is even faster.
Yeah, Citrus is affected by cooldown.
Yes.
Chrono affects that.
Citrus is affected by Citrus. At least the probe equivalent of Citrus. It's rather ridiculous, actually.
But anyway, because Probe is the builder, it's not completely a comment here. You will want to set defenses by the very latest level 14. The very latest, you'll almost always want to set it up earlier because it's the best defense against most backdoors.
Yeah. Now I have to do Archon. Archon is very good if it's allowed to be. What I mean by that is that Archon is not... you do not play Archon as you would think you would. It's not actually as tanky as you think. It has 400 base health, but a bunch of that is shields, which until you have the Plasma Shield skill, they don't have any armor, so you're actually not as resilient to creep as you'd think. Now, the major advantage of Archon is that you really should just be crittering, because Archon is one of the best critters in the game. It can start killing all 3 critters on River at level 3, possibly even level 2 if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of experience.
Yeah, General Guide to Crittering.
Yeah,
plug.
General Guide, go watch it. But it farms very, very well. And so you can critter till the 15-minute mark on River, 10 minutes or so on other ones, and just make a ton of money, come out, start killing people right away with Power Overwhelming. Now, what I like to do with Archon is I pretty much never lane with it, so that's your early game for you right there. I would not suggest laning with it. So what I like to do is get Citrus, Power Overwhelming, and level 5 weapons, just run around, kill people, because at that stage, level 5 weapons is going to murder pretty much any hero.
Side fact, I'm not completely certain about this, but the crit item is very good on Archon, because I think it also applies to your splash damage. I may have been hallucinating when I'm... But I had, say there's 4 Stalkers, and I'm killing mid, and then I shoot 1 Stalker, and then 1 Stalker dies from the splash damage, and all the other ones have, half health. So I think you can crit units just with your splash damage.
I've never tried it.
I'm not sure about that, but I think it's possible.
I do tend to get the crit
item.
item.
Either way, crit item is a very good weapon for Archon, because it has a lot of burst DPS with its Power Overwhelming, so you want as much damage as you can get.
Yeah. So
crit chance, good item for that. Also, Hardened Shields.
Hardened Shields is pretty much a must.
Yeah, it's better than an armor upgrade, so it's better than the dodge chance. But anyway, next we have the Immortal hero, one of my favorites of all time. In fact, probably almost half my games have been Immortal for Protoss, at least. Immortal used to be one of my favorite heroes. I've kind of fallen out of love with it, but it's great. And I'll start by telling you this. You don't know shit about the Ancients, okay? You don't know shit about the Ancients, so listen to me. Build order almost always going to be Wrath of the Ancients and Hardened Shields. Under certain circumstances, you may want to get Phase Disruptors, which is a crit chance. Basically, it's a 0.5-second stun, much like the Bible item for Terran. And has a 10%, 20%, 30% off the top of my head chance to stun. Basically, early on, nothing can really 1v1 it. That's its specialty. Level 5, the second on level 5, I warp back and get speed, just for the off chance I can get more kills with it. And I also get a bunch of energy crystals, and I go back to lane with a warp gate. If there's already one there, then I tend to take it. Otherwise, I might have to buy one. But energy crystals are a must, 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 because basically every energy crystals gets you a Wrath of the Ancients, which is very powerful. Late game, you're not quite as powerful as you are early game, and especially kind of easy to gank. That's why it's not good in IH, because you're so easy to catch off guard, catch out of position, etc., and you don't do quite as much damage. But Immortal, I would argue, is still a very strong hero. I would argue that it's not really even a tank. It's just a very, very tanky caster combat hybrid hero. But I would not advise tanking with this hero. You just use it as to advantage to just slaughter every hero in 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2.
Yeah.